네, 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 오늘
Nice to meet
사회를
you,
맡은 저는
everyone.
한EU
My
기후행동
name
사업팀에서
is
일하고
Sun
있는
Bong-hee
손봉이라고
from
합니다.
the Korea EU
우선
Climate
바쁘신
Action.
와중에도
I would first
한EU
like
지역
to
에너지
thank
전환
all of our
컨퍼런스에
guests
참가해
for
주신
joining
외빈
us at the
여러분,
EU-Korea
그리고
Local
현장
Energy
참가자
Transition
여러분,
Conference
그리고 지금
in
유럽에서
Daedeok,
접속해
those of
계신
us
유럽
who are
방문자
connected
여러분,
online, and those of you
온라인으로
who are on
접속해 계신
site.
모든
We
참가자
have presenters
여러분들에게
from the
감사의
EU and
말씀드립니다.
many
본
participants
컨퍼런스는
on the site today.
한EU
Thank you.
기후행동 사업팀,
This conference
대전광역시
is supported by
대덕구,
Korea EU
대전
Climate
에너지
Action,
전환 네트워크,
the Daedeok
충북대학교
District
대학원
Government,
스마트 생태
Daejeon
산업
Energy
융합화
Transition Network,
협동과정이 공동
Chungbuk
주최하고
National
주한
University,
유럽연합
and it
대표부와
is also
대전
supported by the EU
과학산업진흥원의
delegation to
지원으로
Korea and the Daejeon
진행되는
Institute of
행사입니다.
Science and
이번
Technology for
컨퍼런스
Enterprise and
배경을
People.
간단하게 소개를
Allow me
해야
to
할 것
explain the
같은데요. 이
background for today's
행사는
conference.
유럽연합의 지원으로 한EU
This event
기후행동
is supported
사업팀,
by the EU
대덕구
and
대전
is
에너지 전환
supported by the
네트워크가
EU Korea
공동으로
Climate
진행하고
Action
있는
and the
지역
Daejeon
에너지 전환
Energy
협력
Transition
사업의
Network. It is
일환으로
part
준비된
of the
것입니다.
Local Energy
이
Transition
협력 사업은
Cooperation
우리보다
Project. This
앞서서
cooperation
에너지 전환을
project is
성공적으로
centered on
추진해온
learning
유럽
from
도시들이
many
여러
prime
사례들을 기반으로
examples
에너지 전환
of
및
European
그린 뉴딜 관련
cities.
계획을 국내에서
We aim
선도적으로
to
추진해온
learn takeaways from
대덕구를
their
지원하기
energy
위해서
transition
시작되었습니다.
projects,
지난
and
1월 29일
therefore we aim
협약서
to
체결식이
support the
있었고요. 그
Daedeok
이후 약
District's
5개월 동안
transition to a new
효율적인
energy
에너지 전환을
paradigm.
위한
We
어떤
have
조직이
been
필요한지,
making
또
efforts
어떤
to
기관들이
share
필요한지,
insights on
어떤
which
사업들을 수행할
organizations
수
or
있는지
institutes
등에
are
관하여
necessary and which
전문가 의견 수렴 및
projects are
유럽 사례
executionable.
공유를 위한
And
국내
we have
워크숍 등을
also discussed
개최했습니다.
many
이번
prime
컨퍼런스는
examples, model
그간의
cases
워크숍에서
overseas.
공유된
We
유럽
have had many
사례와
workshops thus far,
전문가들의
and at
의견을
today's
더
conference,
많은
we will
시민들과
be
공유하고 시민들의
sharing
의견을
the
듣고자
outcomes that we
마련된
have collected
것입니다.
from those workshops with more
특히 이번
citizens from the
컨퍼런스에서는
local
핀란드
community.
헬싱키의
And we have
칼라사타마의 스마트 시티 사례,
presentations
덴마크
about Finland
보른홀름의 시민
Helsinki's
참여 사례 등
Kalasatama
유럽
Smart
사례,
Cities case,
그리고
and
대덕구의
also
에너지 전환
Denmark
및 그린
Bornholm's
뉴딜 계획,
case.
지역에서 에너지
In
전환을
Denmark,
성공적으로 추진하기 위한
these are very
방안에 대해
successful
국내
local energy
전문가들의
transition
흥미로운
cases
발표와 토론이
overseas,
진행될
and
예정이니
we
행사
are
끝까지
sure
참가해
that these
주시면
presentations will be
감사하겠습니다.
very insightful
온라인
for Korea.
참가자분들 중에서 의견이나 질문이
If you
있으신
have
분들은
any opinions or
유튜브
comments while
채팅창에
connected
남겨주시면
online, please
취합해서
drop your questions
과장님에게
in
전달해
the YouTube
드리도록
chat box.
하겠습니다.
We will be collecting the
또한 이번
questions
행사는
and
한국어,
submitting them
영어
to
두
the
채널로 송출되고 있습니다.
directors.
한국어로 보실
Also,
분은
we are
대덕구
streaming
유튜브
live on
채널인
YouTube
덕구
in
TV,
English and
영어로 보실
Korean.
분은
If you require
한EU
Korean, please
기후행동
tune into Tokgu
사업팀
TV.
계정을 이용하시면
And if
됩니다.
you require
채팅창에
English,
링크가
please
나와
tune
있으니
into the
참고해
channel
주시기
of
바랍니다.
the EU Korea Climate
그럼
Action.
본격적으로 시작하기에 앞서서
With that, before
대회사
we
및
begin the
축사를 위해
official
내빈 세
presentations,
분을 모셔보도록
we'll be hearing
하겠습니다.
from
가장 먼저
we'll be hearing the
박정현
opening remarks.
대덕구청장님을
First of all,
모시고
from
대회사를
the district
들어보도록
mayor
하겠습니다.
of
큰
Daedeok
박수로
District, Mr.
맞아주시면
Park Jeong-hyeon.
감사하겠습니다.
Please greet him with a big round of applause.
네, 안녕하세요. 내 삶이 달라지는 행정대덕 박재현 구청장입니다.
Hello,
반갑습니다.
my name is Park Jeong-hyeon. I'm the district mayor. Nice to meet you all.
그 1.5도.
Our goal is to limit the average climate increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and the global community is moving very swiftly to do so. The P4G summit was finished yesterday, and there were many summit meetings regarding this topic where many heads of states gathered to achieve this objective. I believe that today's meeting is very meaningful against this backdrop. And I would like to thank all of our participants for joining us today. Especially, I would like to thank the Korea EU Climate Action, Chungbuk National University, and the Daejeon Energy Transition Network. Today, we will be learning about the Finland Helsinki Kalasatama Smart City and the Denmark Bornholm's case. We believe that these cases will be very telling for Korea. I would like to extend my gratitude to Program Director Kerkko Vanhanen and the head of the Center for Nature, Environment, and Leisure, Louise. And we will also like to thank Mr. Ban Young-woong and Secretary General Park Eun-young and President Ko Young-ju for your presentations. And I hope that this event will become a platform for Daedeok District to become an even
네, 말씀
better
잘
city in
들었습니다.
terms of
감사합니다.
energy. Thank
다음
you for your
축사는 존 보가트
opening
주한
remarks.
유럽연합
The
부대사님이
next
준비하고 계십니다.
congratulatory remarks
존
will be delivered
보가트
by
주한
the
유럽연합
deputy head of the
부대사님은
EU
현장
delegation
참석이
to
어려우신
the Republic
관계로
of Korea,
현재
John Bogarts. He was
줌으로
not able
접속해
to make it on
계십니다.
site, so we
존
have him
보가트 주한 유럽 부대사님
connected online. So
준비되셨나요?
are you ready, John?
말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Sorry, yes, I am ready. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So, good afternoon from Seoul. Good morning to the colleagues dialing in from Europe. Great to be able to join you, even if online. Happy to be part of the discussion today. So let me welcome you on behalf of the European Union's delegation to Korea to this local energy transition conference. And to indeed state, as the district mayor did, to say that climate change is a priority for the European Union and Korea alike, as was demonstrated during the P4G summit that was held over the last 2 days in Seoul. I had the pleasure to attend part of that. Of course, fighting global climate change requires international cooperation, which we managed to do over the last 2 days. But importantly, it also requires local implementation and local action, and therefore supporting cities and local authorities in the energy transition is a vital part of the EU's climate diplomacy. And therefore, we're of course very happy to support this cooperation between Daedeok District Government, the Daejeon Energy Transition Network, and the EU-Korea Climate Action Project. The project was launched in 2018 to support Korea's transition towards a low-carbon economy and intends to complement the dialogue that we have at a state-to-state level. Last week we had an event with business, and today I'm very happy that we can again reach out to local authorities. Those are important, given that cities are at the forefront of climate change mitigation, and given that more than 50% of the world's population live in cities, and that cities generate around 3/4 of the global carbon emissions. At the same time, local governments have been great allies in raising the ambition of national governments to implement the Paris Agreement, especially in Korea. And last week, we saw a very welcome development with all 243 of South Korea's local governments pledging to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. The Korean and European Green Deals both come with massive financial commitments, which will hopefully leverage green investments and digital innovations. And this will hopefully transform our economies in the long run and also contribute to the COVID-19 economic recovery in the short run. That required transformation and lifestyle changes cannot, though, be achieved without strong support and engagement of our citizens. Our needs as citizens will need to be at the center of all transition planning. And therefore, I welcome very much that today's event will also address the issue of of citizen participation. As most of you will know, in Europe, it was very much the youth being the driving force behind the green agenda. Successful climate action improves our quality of life. It reduces air, water, and noise pollution, and it should make our cities greener, healthier, and more livable. Today, you will hear from 2 municipalities from Europe, which are front runners in terms of local energy transition and citizen participation. And I thank both speakers very much for your efforts. And I hope that peer-to-peer exchanges between Daedeok districts and the European local authorities over the past months have been useful for everyone. And of course, we look forward to Daedeok Energy Transition Roadmap taking shape, and for you to continue to play a leadership role in Korea. Then, drawing to a close, I would still like to draw your attention to the recently launched EU project called International Urban and Regional Cooperation. This project will support city-to-city cooperation in the fields of ecological transition as well as urban renewal. And in Korea, the project will support city-to-city pairings between 2 EU and 2 Korean cities. The CityNet secretariats, which will be based in Seoul, will act as a local facilitator and point of contact for the city-to-city partnership. So with that, I'll conclude and just express my wish that you have a productive meeting, and I'm looking forward to learn about the outcomes and to follow your discussions today. Thank you very much.
감사합니다. 존 보가츠 부대사님 말씀 잘 들었습니다. 그럼 마지막으로 김은정 대전 에너지 전환
Last but
네트워크
not least,
공동
we will
대표님을 모시고 축사를
hear from
들어보도록
the
하겠습니다.
co-president
큰
of the
박수로
Daejeon Energy
맞아주시면
Transition
감사하겠습니다.
Network, Kim Eun-jung. Ladies and gentlemen, nice to meet you. I am the co-president of the Daejeon Energy Transition Network, Jeong. Today, I would like to talk about, well, I was asked to deliver a congratulatory remarks, and the previous speakers did such good jobs in touching on the essence of the conference. So I would like to tell a more emotional story. I believe that Earth has experienced destroyals many times, and I believe it is also preparing for another destroyal very soon. And as a matter of fact, Earth is now preparing for suicide at a very fast pace. This is going to sound horrible to you, but this is a reality, and climate change has become a global crisis, not a problem of one country alone. Last year, on the Blue House's National Petition Board, a middle school student called on the government to craft climate response strategies. You may remember that petition. Less than 10,000 people signed the petition, but I believe that that petition made a mark in Korea's climate response history. Yesterday at the P4G summit, President Moon Jae-in made announcements regarding climate change. He said that he will develop details on the Green New Deal by 2050, and he also said that he will craft the details for the climate neutrality strategies. He said that Korea will try to lead the way in climate response in line with its reinforced preeminence. In that regard, the Korea-EU Local Energy Transition International Conference is very meaningful in that we'll be discussing specific cases of cooperation and response strategies through the cases of local communities. As we prepared for this conference, we met with many experts from home and abroad, and we saw from their presentations that what's most important in going net zero by 2050 is to establish concrete and smart plans, and based on those plans, the government and the local community, enterprises, and civil society have to cooperate together. I believe that we need very enthusiastic participation from the citizen community. We cannot become a true energy transition society with the efforts of one stakeholder alone. And also, I believe that this will lead to very high satisfaction on the part of the citizens. I hope that through today's conference, we are able to share insights on energy transition and continue on this communication
네,
going forward. Thank
감사합니다.
you, everyone, for being here today.
네, 감사합니다. 말씀 잘 들었습니다.
Thank you.
이제 계산 및 축사 순서가
We
끝났고요.
have just
본격적으로 발제로
completed the
들어가 보도록
opening and
하겠습니다.
welcoming
첫
speeches.
번째
We'll go
발제는
into
유럽
the
발표자가 준비하고
EU
계십니다.
presentation.
지금
First
핀란드
presentation will be
헬싱키
given by
칼라사타마
the program
스마트 시티
director,
사례를
Kerkko
준비하고
Vanhanen.
계신데요.
The title
사실
is about
칼라사타마 스마트 시티 사례는 전 세계적으로 매우
Kalasatama
잘
Smart
알려진
City. It's
사례입니다.
widely known
특히
around the
시민들과
world,
함께하는
especially
혁신적인
with the
실험을 통해서
participations of the
스마트
citizens.
시티
Smart
조성에
City
성공한 사례로
was
잘 알려져
successfully
있습니다.
carried out.
이번 사례는
Through the
칼라사타마
case
스마트
study
시티의 개발,
presentations,
운영을
you'll be able to
주관하고
learn
있는
how
기관인
the smart
포럼
city
비리움
was
헬싱키의
established and how it is
사업국장님이신
being operated.
켈코
Please join
비하넨
me in welcoming
사업국장님께서
Program
준비하고
Director
계십니다.
Kerkko
지금
Vanhanen.
헬싱키에 계신 관계로
He's
줌으로
now in
연결해서 발표를
Helsinki,
진행해
so we
주시도록
are
하겠습니다.
virtually connected.
사업국장님 준비되셨나요?
So are you
발표
ready?
부탁드리겠습니다.
Please start.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here as a guest speaker, and warm greetings from sunny Helsinki. It's morning here. So my name is Kerkko Vanhanen. I'm the program director for Smart Kalasatama. It's a program and it's a district in the city of Helsinki where we have been running different types of experiments and small pilots under the theme Smart City. And let's go further. So I work for a company called Virium Helsinki, and that company is owned by the city of Helsinki. We are an innovation and development company which creates and co-creates especially pilots and experiments, all types of new innovations in real life environment. So we explore urban futures with companies, with the scientific community, and what is very important, with the residents who move to the district and who live in the district. Kalasatama is a former harbor, and there are actually plenty of very central locations that are now being kind of rebuilt for housing and office usage, because these used to serve as cargo harbors, but now the new harbor is right there in the eastern part of the city, and we have lots of brownfield for new usage. As the City Council of Helsinki decided that the district of Kalasatama would serve as the smart city district of the city of Helsinki, and the decision was made in 2013. And since then, it has been one of the most important urban laboratories in Helsinki and in Finland. So it's the Smart City Innovation District where we have developed smart energy, smart mobility, and also smart everyday services. What comes to robotics, we have had interesting experiments, especially in the mall of Ready, where robots have served the last mile, or let's say last hundreds of meters services from supermarkets to the doors of people's own apartments. I will also say a few words about the digital twin of the city, which has been developed, especially in a very accurate level in Kalasatama. The vision in the district of Kalasatama has been 1 more hour a day. That means that with well-functioning services in urban life, services that make everyday life easier, everyone can kind of feel that they gain 1 more hour a day. It's not through 60 minutes or 3,600 seconds, but it is a feeling that life is easier. 1 more hour a day for your own time. It's really important also to be sustainable, and this goal for the city of Helsinki
잠깐 지금 발표 자료가 공유가 안 돼서요. 발표 자료 공유해 달라고 좀
We are not
요청을
able to
드리고
see your
다시
PowerPoint presentation slide. Can you
시작을 해야
share
될 것
your
같은데요.
slide? We need to show
발표
the slides.
자료
Can you share your
국장님
slides?
발표 자료 좀 공유
Once again,
부탁드리겠습니다.
please share
발표
your
자료가 공유가 안
slides.
되네요.
I thought I have been.
Okay.
Am I now sharing? Have you seen these slides?
Yes.
Okay, something happened. I'm very sorry. But anyway, let's go further. So Helsinki has decided to become carbon neutral, and that will, the goal year is 2035. So what is smart should also be sustainable. In Kalasatama district, the innovation ecosystem has important stakeholders. There are corporations and startup level companies, so different levels of companies. There is the public sector, City of Helsinki, and the academia world, the research partners. And in the center are the people living in the district. And Forum Virium and my company, we are here bringing the different stakeholders together. When we are asked that what does it mean to co-create with the residents, there are different types of doing things. One level what we have had is to deep dive in families' lives. we have recruited people and families who we then follow some weeks or some months, and they keep diary of how they consume services available, and also they give feedback when they have been test users in some of our experiments. We have arranged workshops under certain thematic headlines. We have had companies bringing their new services for test using, and we have recruited test users. We have used soft GIS tools and engaged people with them so that they have been able to give feedback that has accurate locations. We know exactly what's happening where and how people, for example, feel about the environment. If we talk about lightning conditions, or do they feel safe? Are there probably some services such as public transport services missing? So soft GIS is a nice tool for that, where to have more gardens. And it's what we see is important when we talk about agile piloting is that when you get instant feedback from real users, and you give that for the companies who develop new services, when they get instant feedback, they know, are they on the right track? So very often, I have to be honest, very often the services we have been experimenting in Kalasatama have been probably a bit ahead of time. And even though that the test users have been satisfied, it might be so that it's not economical viable yet. So it takes some time that we have enough consumers to be customers for new services before they can be viable also in economical level. That is why it's important that the companies do not put all their development money on one idea only. They need to be agile themselves to tune the track what they are following. And that is why the instant feedback from people, the real customers, is very valuable. Our agile piloting program is a methodology that we have been developing and also published two so-called cookbooks for agile piloting. Those cookbooks are also available in English, and we believe that all findings in smart city development should always be shared with others, because only that way we may learn from each other. One important thing there are the market references. When you offer the market references also for the startup level companies, they are able to get probably better share of the markets when they need to participate larger tendering processes. Of course, we also find new future use cases, and that way kind of put new different types of innovations together. And that's the one of the secrets of the cookbook. As like cooking food, you put different things together and they start to taste even better together. So one of kind of key thing of the ideology is that it's not top down, but it's very much bottom up. Not everything can be agile and short-term developing. Certain things need to be decided well in advance. And one is the automated waste collection system in Smart Kalasatama. So it's part of the basic infrastructure where the decision has been made that no heavy lorries picking up the waste are allowed on the streets of Kalasatama. Instead of that, there is a vacuum system that collects separated waste types into one specific place in the district, in the basements of the mall of Ready. There, the waste from, in the end, around 20,000 people will be gathered in one place, and only from there the heavy lorries will then pick up the big containers. So make the streets less noisy and more safe. Smart energy is important as well, and it is required that all houses in Skalasatama need to be able to follow their energy consumption divided into these 12 different subtypes. So we believe that the data that people produce from their everyday life, was it the data of how frequently they produce different types of waste, or was it the data what they get from about their energy consumption? All that data supports everyone to understand the effects of individual decisions. We all as individuals may lower the amount of, for example, CO2 emissions if we just consume a bit less. So small things matter. Just next to Kalasatama district, there is the world's biggest heat pump. That heat pump is installed in a cave where actually the already cleaned wastewater comes. And wastewater, brown water, is warm. And based on the idea of heat pump in general, small differences in heat levels just can be converted in through the heat pump system into true heating energy. And we take heat energy from wastewater and we put that back to the district heating system. So you can find energy everywhere, and that is important when we try to reach the ambitious goal to become carbon neutral by 2035. Open data is another important thing. Wherever you produce data, try to offer it for third parties if possible, because not all knowledge is inside one room, but when you offer the data for other stakeholders, they might make the important innovations that last for the next decades and support us to achieve those goals under sustainability, for example. I already mentioned the digital twin of the city. That of course is built on the data that is produced. And with the digital twin of the city, you are able to simulate how different conditions feel like in different parts of the city, and what are the wind conditions, for example. And we have been also increasing green infrastructure. And with green infrastructure, you may, for example, decrease the temperature in the street level. The more green, the less heat is in short. The phrase what we say is that data is knowledge, and our definition of a smart city is a city that is where live lots of people making smart decisions in their everyday life. So the more we are able to give the data and information to them, we believe that in individual level, people in a smart city make smart decisions. As I said, we want to publish what we do, so feel free to visit also the website forumvirium.fi and find, for example, the cookbook for recipes for agile pilots available in English. I thank you very much for your attention, and I apologize that for a short moment in the beginning of the presentation, the screen was not shared, but I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much.
네, 발표 감사드립니다. 사업 국장님, 발표 잘 들었습니다.
Thank you for your presentation. It was a very
칼라사타마에서
insightful
진행되고 있는 다양한
presentation.
프로그램들, 특히
He
시민들과 같이
discussed
진행되고
many
있는 프로그램들,
programs
혁신적인
put in place
기술을
at the
도입한
city of
프로그램들을 잘
Kalasatama,
소개해 주신
and
것
he also
같습니다.
introduced many
이번
innovative
사례는 대덕구에도
projects.
굉장히 중요할 것 같은데요.
I think
대덕구에서도
these
지금
examples
대덕구에
would be
있는
very
연축
meaningful
지구를
for Daedeok
스마트 그린
District
혁신 도시로
because
조성하는
it
사업을
is
진행을 하고
trying to
있습니다.
establish
그래서
its own
이
smart
사례를
green
통해서 여러 가지 시사점을
innovative
얻으실 수 있을 것 같고요.
city
조금 궁금하거나
within the
자세한
district.
내용은
So I
이따
hope
토론과
that
질의응답
the
시간이
authorities
있으니
from
그때
Daedeok will
질문을
be able
주시면
to take away
조금
many
더
lessons. If you have
추가적인
any
정보나
questions,
자세한
we
활동
have
내용
a
등에
Q&A
대해서
session at the
아실 수
very
있을 것
end
같습니다.
of
그럼
the
그
workshop.
토론과 질의응답 시간을 좀
So
활용해 주시면 좋을 것 같고요.
I
이제
highly
두
recommend
번째 유럽
that
사례로
you
넘어가도록
use
하겠습니다.
that
두
Q&A
번째
session
유럽
to your
사례는 사실
advantage.
덴마크
And the
사례입니다.
second presentation is
여러분들도 잘
about the case
알다시피
of Denmark.
덴마크는
You
에너지 전환을
may
유럽
well know
내에서도
that
굉장히
Denmark is a very
성공적으로
successful case
진행하고
of
있는 나라로
achieving
알려져
an
있습니다.
energy transition within
2020년도 자료에
Europe.
의하면
According
유럽 연합
to
내에서도
2020
태양광
statistics,
풍력 비중이 제일 큰 나라가
it is the
덴마크라고
country
합니다.
with the
이미
highest proportion
60%를
of
넘어섰다고
PV
하네요.
and wind power
이렇게
generation
덴마크는
with
우리보다
more
훨씬
than
앞서서 에너지 전환을
20%.
굉장히 성공적으로 실시하고 있습니다.
This
그럼
shows
덴마크에
how
있는
successful Denmark has
부른홀름에서는
become in
지역
terms
에너지
of
전환과
Denmark
기후 활동에
transition.
있어서
So
어떻게
let us find
시민들과
out all
같이
about the
이것을
case of
성공적으로
Denmark
진행해 오고 있는지에
Bornholm
대해서
and how they led this
발제가
project to success
준비되어
in
있습니다.
collaboration with the local
발제자는
community.
부른홀름
The
자연
presenter
환경 여가센터의
is the head
센터장님이신
of the Center for
루이스
Nature,
링
Environment,
보예슨님께서
and
수고해
Leisure, Louise Lyng
주시겠습니다.
Bojesen. So,
센터장님 준비되셨나요?
Louise,
발표
whenever you're
시작해
ready,
주시기
you
바랍니다.
can begin the presentation.
발표 자료 공유하는 것도 잊지
Please make
말아주세요.
sure
감사합니다.
to share your PPT with us.
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you for inviting me today. I'm very honored to tell you about some of our experiences in Bornholm. My name is Louise Lyng Bojesen, and as I already told, I'm the head. I'm working in the municipality in Bornholm, and I'm head of a center called Center for Nature, Environment, and Leisure, and it contains some of nature, environment, traffic, harbors, and also some of all the cultural and leisure parts. So it's a very interesting center, I think. I'm now going to give you a short presentation. I think I have to make it full screen, right? I'll tell you a bit about Bornholm and how our journey has been according to involving all our local citizens. As you can see, we have a long story working with energy and being and climate. Bornholm, as you can see, it's a small island in Denmark situated in the Baltic Sea. We both have a lot of nature, and we also have cities all over the island, and you can see examples here of how the cities look. It's some are the old tree houses, and some are made of other kind of materials. As you can see, we have also wind power, and we have also local plants where we use biomass and other materials to heat up our cities. The municipality is the local authority. I'll just give you a brief overview here. As you can see, it's in top here. It's all the political parties, or it's a municipal board and political smaller groups who decide what we're going to do. And in the bottom, you can see the centers and how we work to service our local politicians. And this is me, where I sit. So you can see the municipality is a very big organization in Denmark, and we work with a lot of different kind of elements concerning the public. We both have all these things on the technical side. We also have a lot of centers working with our elderly people, with healthcare, the school system, and the children and kindergarten and so on. So it's a very huge organization. I think our road, I will tell you some more about here, is, well, we have been working with this for many, many years now. And I would say it's very important that you have a strong political vision, that you really want to do this. And as I can hear from the beginning of this event, I think you right now are in a good moment to really make a good progress on these issues. I would also say that one of our experiences is that there are no quick fixes. I think maybe Kerkko also agree on me on this. I would only support all that we have from Finland, because we have some of the same experiences also. And I will also say that one project is not enough. You have to keep on, and you have to make a lot of different entrances in this, and you have to find out what is people motivated by when you start this process. It's also very important that you're aware that it's a transdisciplinary development, and you have to use different kind of skills. The engineers can do something, the biologists can do something else, but you also have to have people knowing about psychology or other kind of these more human skills. And then it's very important that that you use different kind of stakeholders when you involve your citizens, also to make them inspire other people. That's one of our main experiences. I think one of, well, we started in the 80s, and we also been working with this in the 90s, but in the last, I think, years, I would say we worked on this energy planning project in 2007. And this is, I think, where we really started to dive deep into our data. I totally agree on the presentation from Finland, and data is very, very important, because you cannot discuss on feelings only. You have to have some facts that you can use on this. You have to understand your energy system. You have to understand where are you consuming energy, and where would it be useful that you start your citizen involvement. We worked to develop these energy strategy, and we made a lot of prioritized actions. And we understood that it was very important that we involved our local public, and to make them understand and be aware that they were a part of this. We will only succeed if they participated. So we made different kind of forums where we involved the citizens and discussed these issues with them. Not only the normal or local citizens, but also the businesses, and made them aware. You have to understand that in this period, the climate issues were not so very much discussed all over the world as we are today. So it was a quite different time to begin these discussions. I think the oil prices at this moment were rising, and of course it gave it something that people were beginning to be aware of, that maybe we have to be more aware of the prices and how our supply is secure in the future. Later on, I think we had a very good discussions under this project, and later on we also developed the Bright Green Island project, where we started really to working on involving our citizens in what would they what was they motivated by? What did they feel that the Bornholm should live from in the future? And as you maybe can see, well, the nature is very beautiful and on Bornholm, and we also have a lot of tourists. But we also have actually was very far ahead with the local energy production. So a lot of people said, well, this is important. We would like the Bornholm Island to be a sustainable island, and we also ask people to please send. I could say we made a photo competition, and we asked people to send in their best photos, what would they think that, what is the best part of Bornholm. And of course, there was a lot of beautiful photos, but also it told the story of a sustainable island. There was a branding camp, 48 hours on the ferry sailing around the island. A lot of people were discussing how we could work with this sustainability. So this is just examples on how to involve your citizens. It's important that you do it in different ways. There's, I think, today a lot of literature and science, how you can actually involve people. And I would say, just start small scale and start up and get some experiences on how your local citizens react on this. As I said, motivation is very important. Some people are motivated by their feelings, and other people are very motivated by data, or can they save money, or can they get a better comfort in their house, or can they do something smarter? And you have to be able to make campaigns or involvement that where you address all these motivations. We have done different projects. I would also maybe tell it that we in 2017 made a revitalization of this bright green island, and it's been going on for nearly 9 years at this moment. And there's at this moment there was, of course, these sustainable development goals from the UN, and we were inspired by these goals, and we made new citizen involvements, and we made we tried to make all our local people to, what is your goal, your local Bornholm goal, and in the bottom here you can see our former mayor, and she was going to buy more sustainable groceries and local. And this is also one of our local NGOs, the head of one, and he's going to pick up garbage in nature. And in this way, there was a lot of different stories from the people, how they would like to help us support a more sustainable island in the future. And this is important to realize that energy is not the only part. Sewage or garbage is also very important topics that can really well engage people. We also formed a temporary political committee where local politicians and local citizens are sitting together and discussing different kind of issues. And this is also a way of involving citizens directly in this big issue. And this temporary political committee is still functioning today, and they are still discussing how we should address all these different kind of important topics. For example, they have helped us work out a new energy policy for 2040, and we had a lot of local arrangements planned for the last year. But of course, as we have all been yeah, maybe a little, yeah. Well, the corona, the COVID-19 has been caused that we have cancelled a lot of these information campaigns, but we hope now that that we can start all over. Of course, some of them were digital instead, but a lot of our events and arrangements where we were out in the cities and meeting people and discussing, they could not be followed through. We still are very aware that not only it's local citizens, we still very much discuss with our businesses and our unions and of course all our local NGOs, organizations that work for this, because they're very, very good front runners in these issues. I would also say something about, or to sum up, this is pictures from one of our local energy fairs where all our local businesses, they made yes, you can see they were selling or telling about their products, and people could come and hear about heat pumps or insulation in houses or other kind of these issues. And this is, of course, an example of a local involvement where people who's fascinated of the technical issues and motivated by what can I do in my own house, visited. And there were both elderly people and families, as you can see, who visited. So this is also a very good opportunity to do these kind of things. I would also say that our experiences, you can make a lot of your own arrangements, but it's also very important that if you can be present at other events where maybe the topic is totally different, but then you can maybe have a small stand or something where you can meet people. It's also, we have also been involving our pupils on the schools. They are working also with these sustainable goals, and they're involved in if the schools should be rebuilt, or then they were involved in these processes. And also all our schools and kindergartens are invited to visit our waste company and hear about waste management. And sometimes, well, we have smaller children, they were educated like waste detectives, and then they were very proud to come home and tell their parents about now they were waste detectives. So this is just examples on how you can involve people and what we have been doing. And I would say we are still not finished. We are going to work with this for many years ahead. And I believe you also should prepare for this. But as you can see, there's a lot of different kind of things you can do to involve your local people. And I would just hope for you that just say, go ahead and make some of your small experiences, and then see what happens. This is all for me now. Thank you for inviting me and letting me share our story.
네, 감사합니다. 다시 한번 훌륭한 발표를 해주신
Thank you for
보른홀룸
your
자연 환경
presentation.
여가센터 센터장님에게 큰 박수 보내주시면
Let's give a
감사하겠습니다.
big hand for Louise once again.
사실 이 발표로부터 우리는 또 이 에너지 전환, 또
We
기후
were
행동,
able to
시민
learn
참여
a
관련한
lot
중요한
from your
원칙들을 확인할 수
presentation
있는
and
기회였던 것
the very
같은데요.
important
여전히
principles
우리가 확인할 수 있는
of
것은
local
지방
projects.
정부는 명확한 목표와
And
비전을
we
제시하고 그로부터
learned
시민들에게
that the local
동기부여를
governments have
하고
to have a very clear vision
이로부터 얻어낸
from the
시민 참여를
get-go, and they
기반으로
have to
시민뿐만
motivate
아니라
the
기업,
local citizens,
다양한
and they have
전문가들이
to communicate
참여하는
with many stakeholders, not only
그런
local
체계를
citizens, but also
통해서
enterprises, NGOs,
정책이나
civil
이행
society,
방법들을
and so forth,
찾아내고
in order to
그런
find
것들을
the
시민들과
best
같이 수행할 때
way
성공적인
forward.
사례를
And
만들 수
you can
있다는 걸
only
다시
achieve
한번 확인할 수
success when you're
있었던
accompanied
기회였던 것
by
같고요.
the citizens and other stakeholders. There cannot be a successful policy without citizen participation, and we saw that they have invested a lot of time from many years back in this project. So I hope that the Daedeok District and many local governments and civil societies would have learned a lesson from that presentation. There is a lot of weight on their shoulders. They have to play a big role. And this is a challenge that we all have to tackle going forward. And I hope that local experts would realize such responsibilities, and we will now hear about our local experts who will be making their own proposals. We have 4 presentations prepared.
This presentation will be given by District Mayor Park Jeong-hyeon of Daejeon District Government, and you will hear Energy Transitions and Green New Deal of Daedeok District. Please welcome District Mayor with one round of applause.
제가 떨어져 있고 저는 2차까지 맞았습니다.
Well, I
코로나
was
백신을. 그래서
vaccinated
이거 벗어도 되겠죠?
fully, so please allow me to take off my facial mask. And there is definitely a social distance between all the participants and I standing in front of you.
네, 접니다. 예.
That's me.
2050 탄소 중립을
2050
위해서 열심히 운동화끈
carbon
메고
neutrality
달리고 있는 대덕
is
구청장입니다. 박창현입니다.
to be achieved by myself, and I'll be running to achieve this goal.
대덕구가
Let me begin my
보시는
presentation.
것처럼
As you
저는
can
대덕구를
see,
소개할
this
때
is the overview of Daedeok.
동환서산이라고 소개를 합니다.
And usually what I
무슨 뜻인지 잘
say
모르시겠죠?
is east-west.
동쪽에는
In
환경이
the
잘
east,
보존돼
the
있고
environment is well
여기
preserved. As you
장동에
can see here in
대족산이
Changdong
있고
area, there's
이쪽에
mountain, and
대청호가 있어서
here there's
동쪽에는 환경이
lake
잘
of
보존돼 있고
Daejeon. So in the
서산
eastern part of Daedeok,
서쪽에는
environment is really well
대화동의
reserved. In the western
대전산업단지,
part, there's
이쪽에
industrial complex, and in Eunpyeong area, we also have industrial complex and also other factories. So in the western part, we have industrial complex. So once again, environment and industry coexist in Daedeok District. And out of 5 districts, Daedeok has the most least population. And in order to go into energy transitions, it's not easy for us to realize renewable energy utilization. And about 30% of Daedeok District is comprised of industrial complex, which means that CO2 emission from the industrial complex is quite high. But under this environment, what can Daedeok District do? We've done a lot of research last week, but before that, let me briefly tell you the Green New Deal initiated by Daedeok. On June 5th in 2020, the Climate Crisis Emergency Declaration ceremony was held where 226 local governments were held together. And on July 14 last year, Government of the Republic of Korea has announced Korean New Deal plan. And we've been running, and finally, on December 10th, the President of Republic of Korea has announced or declared Korean carbon neutrality. Once again, we were able to confirm how important the role of each local autonomy is. And also, as the President announced carbon neutrality last year, as you can see, the Carbon Neutrality Committee was launched. And do we have Mr. Yang Mo? Yes, he's the member of the Carbon Neutrality Committee. I believe that he's representing our region. And also, in order to legislate, they enact the Carbon Neutrality Act. And on April 21, there was an announcement of 10 major strategy of local government for carbon neutrality, and National Assembly passed the National Finance Act on the introductions of the GHG budget system. So Daedeok District, starting from the October of last year, we have declared Digital New Green Project, and a total of 160.6 trillion won Korean New Deal will be carried out. And we definitely need to transition into renewable energy led by the residents, and also carbon storage and also the capture will also be done. And together with the residents, we'll be doing this. So there are 5 sectors: just transition of energy; second, citizen-led energy independent; third, reducing greenhouse gas by greening the city center; and 50% of the reductions in greenhouse gas emission by 2030; and smart green city completed by 2050 with a just energy transition by 2050. There are more than 40 projects, but in a nutshell, we can categorize into 3 areas. First, as you can see, the main pillar is Green New Deal. And first is the transitions of the industrial complex to green industrial complex. Second, creating an eco-friendly, energy-independent, smart green innovation city. Third, citizen-led Green New Deal. Yeonpyeong is comprised of a huge area, and we'd like to turn this into eco-friendly eco area, and we'd like to become a Green New Deal model city. And also we have the industrial complex that is outdated, but we'd like to transition that to green industrial complex. So old industrial complex is now being done together with the Daejeon city government, but there's also another green complex being done here, and we'd like to build this industrial complex into a net zero complex, and it was approved. So this will be our model, and we'd like to expand this. And for the citizens-led Green New Deal, 100,000 citizens dieter will be created from school, from neighborhood, from company. Carbon dieters will be created. The foundation for these people will also be created. On a daily life, one of the key is establishing special vegetarian zones. About 45% of the vegetables produced by the global community is actually produced to feed the animals so that we can consume, which is not eco-friendly. So in order to tackle the greenhouse gas emission and also global warming and also stay healthy, we'd like to establish special vegetarian zone within 5 years. And in 5 years, definitely Daedeok District will be a city with 200,000 citizens. And once a week, we want every single resident residing in Daedeok District, we want them to eat vegetables. So once a week for all. That's within 5 years. So these are what Daedeok district government is doing. First, they are deleting emails on Wednesday, on Thursday, because Thursday in Chinese character means tree. So that's the day of the vegetarian day, which means that once a week we eat only vegetables, and also we use wooden toothbrush or tumbler. So we are doing this free activity, not only public servants, but also we have signed the MOU with the companies residing in Daedeok District, so we are doing it together with them as well. This is citizen-led Green New Deal. And Daedeok District Energy Transition case is done by the citizens. So citizens' engagement is critical. I'd like to share a couple of cases for that. First, in relations with the energy, we need to have a platform for the energy transition, and that is energy cafe, because energy is really heavy subject. We believe that energy is an area for the expert, but if the residents take actions every day, if they communicate every day, and we can definitely realize energy transition. How can we do that? Within the space called Energy Cafe, we can foster the activity by creating and conducting energy transition education. So to create an energy independent society is a platform that plays a role in citizens' participations and communication as a combined form of a cafe. And we don't pay any money. It's actually the citizens or the civic organizations involved in energy, they operate this net zero public market or brunch cafe or energy cafe. And what you're looking at is, once again, an energy library. And we have established as to symbolize that we are aiming at reducing the global climate. This is a public market where the farmers sell their own product. On the second floor, you can see that the library is established on the first floor. There are various kinds of the agricultural products or eco-friendly household goods are sold. Second floor is library and it's an open space. And you know that usually when such facilities are built, administrations spend the money and then civic organizations join. But actually, Daedeok District did not provide any funding, but actually, there is a special residential committee where they comprised of the citizens they took part in, and energy companies took initiative in building this energy cafe and energy transition platform. And also there is different kinds of the environmental organizations. The total of the 5 energy related organizations together with the energy companies and social cooperative organizations joined together to build this. And we hope to duplicate this energy cafe throughout Korea. And, and residents come here and then they do various kinds of activity. As I mentioned before, the population of Daedeok district is about 180,000 and the young people really young, and if we exclude them and if we exclude the aged people, total population is about 100,000, and we'd like to develop them as the energy activist. And most of the activities will be done by the citizens. And we also built a school. So school-led activities will be done. And within 5 years, we'd like to develop 100,000 energy dieter. We began to use this. So fostering 100,000 carbon dieters, we began to use Daedeok District for the first time. But now central government is using these carbon dieters. And I believe that this will be like a topics throughout Korea. Everyone will use that. And also industrial complex, turning that into green industrial complex is quite difficult. Of course, large conglomerates have their own role to play, but there's also small size companies within industrial complex, and we can easily transform this small company. And targeting this small company, we'd like to carry at RE 100 campaign. So just like 100 gigawatts energy consumption, there are companies that consume a lot of energy, and you like Facebook, other things, but Daedeok style or Daedeok type RE100 agreement with the companies promising to expand renewable energy to achieve carbon neutrality in 2050. So we plan to make it to 60% by 2030 and 100% by 2040. That is our goal. And Daedeok, this company is the only one company that produce liquor made out of rice in Daedeok district. And also various houses located in Daedeok district would like to enhance the renewable energy utilization. Another thing that we are doing is carbon budget system was enacted in April this year. Out of the total GDP, the about carbons consumes or emitted are about 40%. So where does the budget spend mostly? If you look at it, definitely you can see the local autonomy spend quite a bit of money. That is why we have adopted carbon budget system. As I mentioned before, carbon budget system is a system that separately evaluates the impact of greenhouse gas emission when implementing various projects for which the budget is allocated and reflects it in budgeting and executions. This is what we plan to do in the future. Based on technology, we'd like to build and expand the energy system based on GIS. We'd like to establish a renewable energy resource management system, and here we'd like to implement the residence DR service for Daedeok residents. So we'd like to wisely practice energy conservation and contributing to the local economy by providing incentive. At the same time, we can tackle the climate crisis. This one is about ESS. This is building the system, ESS, energy storage system, in the parking lot so that Zero Energy Park will store some of the solar power generated. And in Daedeok area, we have built a special science center. Sorry, we will build next year a children's net zero science center. And currently, the local energy center is operated under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And when this Daedeok Local Energy Center is created, definitely it will be a foundation for private-led climate crisis response to realize sustainable energy transition. And very actively, we will realize the energy autonomy and decentralization. That concludes my presentation, what kind of activity we do to tackle the climate crisis. Thank you very much. Please give a warm round of applause to District Mayor Park Jeong-hyeon. What Daedeok District is doing, a new Green New Deal, and also the civic organizations, also citizens engagement, and the plans and various projects that are being carried out were explained by District Mayor Park Jeong-hyeon, especially the platform that induces the participations of the companies and citizens are currently being planned and to be implemented by District Mayor Park, which was very impressive, especially compared to any other local autonomy. It seems like Daedeok District is really well ahead of others, like carbon dieters or also the carbon budget system, which cannot be found in any other district. But these are the examples that other districts need to learn from.
Let's move on to the second Korean presentation. As District Mayor Park mentioned just now, it is very important for companies to reduce their industrial carbon emissions, and that is also a challenge for Daedeok District, as District Mayor pointed out. The second presentation is in line with this idea. The presenter will be discussing the Korean EIP Development Initiative. Professor Pan Yong-woo from Chungbuk National University will be delivering the presentation. So the floor is yours. Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Pan Yong-woo. I'm from the Chungbuk National University. As the moderator just mentioned, I will be discussing industrial complexes and how they can achieve an energy transition, achieve circular economy, resource circulation, and so forth from my 15 to 16 years of experience. I will also talk about the progress, outcomes, and the takeaways. This would be the table of content. The EIP, or Eco-Industrial Park in a narrow sense, is, as you can see from this graph, it means circulating waste byproducts between different companies. So the companies exchange waste byproducts, so to speak. And by extension, these companies share various utilities and infrastructure. And they also use and share local energy and resources to achieve energy transition, save energy, and reduce emissions. We call this industrial symbiosis. So this does not simply take place within the industrial complex. It takes place in connection with the wider local community. So in a sense, EIP originated from circular and sharing economy. So we use resources to create products, and in the past, it was a rather linear structure where all the waste is discharged. So this works in the disadvantage of companies and their brand image. And it is also bad in terms of the amount of waste that is created. However, in an EIP, we use resources to create products, but we also use the waste after recycling and reusing. So you end up with no waste, which means zero discharge. This is the ideal goal. And most industrial complexes hope to become EIPs, but they're not necessarily zero discharge, but still that is the direction that they aim for. So there's a Kalundborg in Denmark is a very good case in point. And I've heard that they recycle and reuse almost every piece of waste that is created. So this works in the favor of the brand image of the companies, and this can bring about a very positive sentiment because this, at the end of the day, is connected to circular and sharing economy. It took a while until we evolved that concept to what it is now. Most of the waste, before we officially started that initiative, the waste was incinerated or landfilled or just thrown away anywhere. And in phase 2 and phase 3, we decided to try to prevent waste creation and pollution from the production stage. So stage 3, or consumption related issues, is what was mostly discussed today. And if you go to stage 4, or sustainable development, the goal is zero emission and circular sharing economy, or moving to an eco society. As a tool to bring us closer to an eco society, we use EIP. And industrial ecology is what becomes the basis for EIPs. So by leveraging the concept of industrial ecology, we can usher in a circular economy. In order for us to become a sustainable city, we have to meet various requirements. And these are the minimum requirements for an industrial complex to become an EIP. You have to have environment management monitoring, and you have to have water management and energy management, and you have to have natural environment and climate resilience. And in terms of society, you have to have social management and monitoring systems, social infrastructure, and community outreach and dialogue projects. And you also have to create more jobs and economic value. This is a structure where everybody can win. And in Korea, the proportion of manufacturing is very high in terms of GDP, and it also takes up a large portion in terms of employment. And industrial parks, we have more than 1,000 industrial parks in Korea, of course in Daejeon and Daedeok, and they're very much concentrated. So this is a very good condition for us to create a symbiotic relationship because there's many companies located very close to each other. And there were many policies that led us to this initiative. There were Rio Earth Summit in 1992, and there was the Act to Promote Environment-Friendly Industrial Structure, which became the basis and the foundation. And there was also the Korean National Cleaner Production Center that was established. So we started the pilot project years ago, and then we started to select demonstration sites such as Pohang, Yeosu, Ulsan in 2005, and also Panwol, Sihwa, and Cheongju in 2006. So this project continued till 2006, and it was discontinued for a while. And then the second phase of EIP began in 2010. These are the provisions of the EIP project. And based on this, we can select EIP complexes. And we found that these effects were generated. As a matter of fact, this project started off as an R&D project. So there was the energy special accounting system that was applied, and we saw that around 100 billion worth of government funds were received for the first decade. And after the project ended, the first phase ended in 2016, we saw that the commercialization rate was 66%. This is typically 15 to 20%, so 66% is very impressive. And we started 650 tasks, and we completed many of them. And we also formed networks for 235 items. And we achieved an economic effect of more than 20-fold the funds that were originally inputted. And we were able to reduce emissions of almost 1.73 trillion and 8.54 million of emissions. So we also reduced waste of 6.5 million tons, and we created many jobs for the local community. So you can see here that the economic effect was very significant and it's exponentially increasing. The social benefits are also exponentially increasing. I believe that this project is a very good case in point for the Green New Deal. And we were able to create a very significant effect with minimum investment. For the first phase, we began with 5 industrial complexes. And in the second phase, we expanded this to 46 industrial parks with 9 hubs and 37 spokes. And in the third phase, we connected 105 industrial parks nationwide. So we're seeing an industrial symbiosis effect across the country. And for the post-EIP phase, we're going to start funding EIP projects and start R&D. And the goal is to create a nationwide network of industrial parks. The project was supported by MOTI and KICOX. It was a joint effort. And 5 EIP centers are in the region. I'm heading one center, and I know that there is another center in Daejeon as well. I hope that we will be able to join forces going forward. I saw that our ideas are very much similar. Could you go to the next slide, please? Who's controlling the slides for me? Go to the next slide. Thank you. This is a case of Ulsan and the steam highway. There are a lot of petrochemical facilities in Ulsan, so sometimes there's an excess amount of steam, sometimes there's a shortfall. So we created a steam highway, so to speak. And I believe that this is a very globally successful model. And this is a case of Cheongju, where we reuse the waste mock marble to be used as a new form of resource. We also created an economic effect of 7 billion, and we reduced 13,000 tons of greenhouse gases. So out of the various projects, this one involves emissions reductions by using incineration. So there are various processes involved. And there's also ammonia involved, generated from metal companies. And this is the overall pipeline. This is the network that Ulsan is involved in. It's a network regarding carbonation of minerals. And engaging in EIP projects, I found out that there are 37 representative EIP networks or technology. The one that was most impressive was energy optimization using heat of incineration and process. So we reuse the heat that is generated from incinerators, and we supplied steam generated from that heat to the factories. And this ended up creating a very successful win-win network. And also, when we supported the waste heat to other factories in Cheongju, it was very successful. And another very good example is recovering valuable metals from a wastewater process, and also recycling non-ferrous metal scrap. So you can see that there are a lot of technologies used in various sectors. Just to summarize, we collaborated with Bangladesh, Egypt, Turkey, and other countries. We have collaborative projects underway. And this is also true for Latin America and Africa. And from now on, EIP is going to be renamed to EID because we're going to start smart eco-industrial development projects. There are coordinators that manage these projects. In the past, they identified the tasks, but from now on, we're going to use a top-down method by using a potential matching system to identify projects with the highest commercialization potential. And this is going to be the smart EID network. And this has been enabled because the government started to operate the top-down method. I think that was very effective in Korea, and the government also provided funds. And there was KICOX, which is an institution that is funded by the government. So these were factors that enabled or facilitated the success. And we also provided many incentives to invite companies to participate in the project, and the management structure were also open to many stakeholders. The institutional groundwork was very successful also. So we're also trying to rename waste management to resource circulation, which sounds much better. And also, there are very exceptional, unique facilities that are used in industrial complexes. So we're trying to grant exceptions for restrictions. So many regulations were lifted. As I just explained, just like we're seeking change in our day-to-day lives, the industrial complexes have to change also because they take up 60 to 70% of the economy. The industrial parks have to turn smart first in order to facilitate change because they're the heaviest energy users. This model of transition is EIP. With that, I'd like to close my speech. Thank you.
뜨거운 박수 다시 한번 부탁드리고요.
Thank you.
생태산업단지 발제를 들으면서
So as I was listening to this presentation, I realized the importance of thinking outside of the box because as the professor explained, we have technologies, we have very successful cases, and we were able to achieve emissions reductions through very small investments. But as for the companies, they have been competing against each other, and because of that competition, they were not able to achieve that change entirely. So if they move toward a network based on sharing, we will be able to bring about success for them as well. And the role of local citizens, civil society, and many stakeholders are very important in facilitating this change. The third Korean presentation is about a theme that we have been discussing time and time again today. So we have to involve many stakeholders to bring these projects to success. And how should we specifically cooperate with each other? This presentation is about governance, and it will be delivered by Secretary General Park Eun-young of the Daejeon Chungnam Green Korea United. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Hello, everyone. I am Secretary General Park Eun-young from Daejeon Chungnam Green Korea United. Today, I'd like to make a presentation on the governance mechanism for local energy transition, the process that we have undertaken, and also the concerns that I had. As it was already mentioned by the district mayor, Park Jeong-hyeon, November last year, President of Republic of Korea has announced carbon neutrality 2050. But even before that, since 2019, there was again, the special committee trying to raise our voices about alarming everyone about the climate crisis. And we have declared the climate crisis, and also more recently, all of the local autonomy has announced carbon neutral era. And I believe that when we gather all of these voices in order for the Republic of Korea to successfully carry out carbon neutrality, the role of local autonomy is extremely important. In light of that, energy transition is extremely important. Based on my experiences, in a way, there is a huge work that we need to work on because the power or the resources of the energy policy are actually monopolized by the central government. So what we need to do first of all is energy decentralization. We need local governments and local residents to solve their related problems by themselves. And however, in Korea, most of the major issues are decided by the central government, not the local government, but the residents of the local area. They'd like to ensure that they decide whatever it is related with their own district. So the central government needs to pay attention and provide support, but the initiative must be taken by the local autonomy. As was already mentioned by the other speakers, so since it's overlapping, I will briefly touch upon the work that we do. Some of the figures are a little bit different, but based on my memory, I'd like to share with you the examples that we had. For example, we have done the mini solar power installations together with Daedeok area, and especially at the guarding room, we have carried out, like for example, inside the apartment, there are security offices, and we have built this. Probably the 14 speakers, you might not be able to understand what do I mean by security office within the apartment complex. Security office means that it is installed inside the apartment complex that check the people who comes and goes out. But sometimes there's a lot of issues because of the subordinate and the owner issues. But security offices in Korea, few of them don't have air conditioner. In order to install conditioner inside the security offices, they have to get an approval from the society of the residents within that apartment complex. So there were quite a bit of the confrontation. Even if they build air conditioner, they cannot switch on because they don't want to be criticized by the residents of the apartment complex that they use too much energy. Only when it's extremely hot, the security offices within the apartment complex feel that they deserve to switch on the air conditioner. But in Daedeok District, we've been working with various other agencies. We have carried out that by installing mini solar power, we can generate the power and then provide the electricity so that security offices within the apartment complex, they can switch on the air conditioners and work in a much more comfortable way. I guess Daedeok District, as long as it has a strong determination and willingness, it can produce greater result in the future as well. Together with Daejeon City, in line with the mini solar power generation installation, we've been actively carrying out the installation. Of course, we didn't produce a great result because Daejeon City was not determined to install that. The Daejeon City was not persuaded, and they don't feel the need to install mini solar power in various areas. However, Daedeok District is determined to build it, and in that sense, I can assure you that more than anything else, what we need is the determination and willingness by the district office or the city government. And also, Myodo was introduced by district mayor. In the Myodo area, we have built net zero public market as well as net zero public library. There was a space, and Heyyu was an energy company. They made a contribution, so we were able to build the net zero public market and public library. Well, there is a saying that the administration does all the things by itself, but still, it wasn't true for this Myeodong Net Zero Public Market and Library, because it was the residents who took the initiative, who voluntarily did everything. Well, people in the beginning was wondering, what do we really mean by net zero public market or net zero public library? But they began to understand what it means because the renewable energy company took the initiative, and together with the Daedeok District and the residents, as well as the environmental civic organizations, we collaborated. And also, we took the initiative in taking control of the governance. We found out what kind of coordinator we need, how the coordinator should work on. That is why we were able to produce a great result. Next, I'd like to introduce Energy Cafe, introduced by District Mayor. This Energy Cafe is a platform where citizens meet together. It's a place for the residents. It's a living space. And director of Daedeok District was very eager to build it. I was quite impressed with the manager of Daedeok District. I work a lot with the government officials, but usually I feel like decision makers are different than the person that I talk to. However, when I work with the Daedeok District, I realized that the manager was in charge, and he was very determined to realize that. I don't know whether the manager was endowed with a special authority, but he was very persuasive, and he pushed it hard so that we were able to establish this number one energy transition cafe, and then it provide a huge platform, thus producing a great result. Once again, I realized that the people working in the government or local government, whoever it is, needs to have a full authority in making decisions so that we can push ahead with the energy transitions. On the right column, you can see that we have established the local energy plan in Daedeok District through the workshop. And we have met a couple of residents who work as the people, and he came here at the workshop who talked about how they try to transition their energy, especially publicize the mini solar power plant. And he mentioned in a very strong voices that the local autonomy should do this and that in order to expand mini solar power. This spokesperson said that local autonomy must do this and that. He was very frank. The opinion of the residents were directly reflected in the energy plan, and these served as opportunity to increase the understanding and acceptance of the policy. So once again, in the future, when we transition our energy system into renewable energy, we need to activate the citizens' participation. And watching that, I realized that, of course, sometimes we were faced with quite a bit of difficulties, but maybe it's because we never asked the view of the residents. And the government officials, they work really hard, but in order to, in a true sense, implement the policy, they need to gather the view, opinions of the residents. So once again, the residents of the Daedeok district were directly reflected, which produced great result. Let me summarize what I have learned. A few points that was identified. First, most important thing is the will of the administrators. That must come from the authority. Authority means like local government. When the roadmap is confirmed, quick decision making is required in the process of carrying out work. Another is important is authority must be granted. And second, residents must participate directly. So meticulously planned, no matter how good it is, means nothing if the citizens don't take part in. So in the process of residents' participation in policy planning and implementation, it's extremely important that residents take active participations. And also the coordinator is essential. Of course, administrators, they can play the role, but still there are so many stakeholders, sometimes confusion can occur. So I believe based on our partnerships and collaboration, we need a coordinator that can cover everything. So if the plan is set by the Daedeok District, there could be some center, it could be person or it could be center. And this center must play the role of the coordinator with a certain authority so that they can cover the stakeholders' view in a variety way. And within that, the governance can exercise its own role. This is my idea. And I really like these kind of things because I'd like to identify who is working in our area and who can do what. In Daedeok District, I try to identify who can take the initiative. And I've done some research and I don't have exact data, but still based on the data that I've gathered, we have the Department of Climate Environment, Department of Climate and Economy within the Daedeok District. Of course, they don't have a huge department that encompasses climate crisis, energy, everything, but still they had a department, and also there are more than 12 welfare centers in Daedeok District. But I believe that we need to transcend the silo. So integrated department units is extremely important instead of having these partitions. And I found out that there were some resources and also there are some intermediate organizations. There could be more organizations, but I found that there is a community support center, volunteer center, support centers. But we do have a carbon neutrality goal and we need to support each other and we need a certain player who can play the role of the coordinator. And I believe that depending on the project, sometimes this linkage disappears, but we can take bigger strides if we find a linkage or a coordinator. So the coordinator can connect all of these different centers. And I mentioned that there are 12 welfare centers, and maybe these 12 centers can work together with different kinds of the community centers or regional centers, and flexibly we can work together. So starting from small towns, if these small towns are trying to build its own plans, then we can collaborate all of these different village community and work together. So once again, there were a lot of threats and difficulties. There are more than 1,000 different organizations, but we can all work together. We heard the case of the Bornholm and also Finland. We keep hearing the word of the circular economy and also the relationship of the coexistence. But I believe the companies located in certain regions, they also emit the carbon dioxide, but also they can play pivotal role in reducing the CO2 emission. So definitely by building more eco-friendly ecosystem, and I'm sure that we can flexibly respond to the climate crisis. And somebody mentioned about RE100 forum, and on a wider range, we can utilize this as a communicating channel. So ecosystem or building a special eco village is not something that will happen in the future, but we can make most of the existing organizations. And there are more than 91 collaborative agencies located within Daedeok District, and some pushes mini solar power installation and some working hard with the renewable energy utilization. So all of these collaborative agencies or support centers or different centers, we can all link it together, and then we can connect these local resources and residents to achieve the carbon neutral goals. These resources could be like facilities or equipments, but these are not the only thing. There are things that are living resources, and we can converge, communicate, or we can push this together to achieve carbon neutral governance. And definitely we can do that. we talk about the importance of the data gathering, and also the data that are scattered around can be collected and make most of. That's my proposal. This is my last proposal. And if you look at it here, there's Dr. Lee, and I believe that he's been working really hard in this area. And in order to build carbon neutral city, he has drawn this picture. And as an environmental activist, I could find other beautiful pictures, but I guess if you look at here, all of these different elements can form our own organizations and push ahead with the carbon neutrality. And definitely by making most of all of these entities, we can respond to the climate crisis. Right before P4G, local autonomy declared their plans. And I don't want to see any more declaration. Declaration is just verbal talk. We've already done enough of the declarations because already there's a consensus. Now's the time to actually implement our plans. And by implementing this plan, of course, we need to evaluate. Based on the evaluation, if additional improvement is required, we need to reestablish our plan. And all of this process continuously be checked out and then promoted. So in this process, in each sector, we can make most of the governance, and I hope the Daedeok District can work on that. As an environmental activist, I'll also work hard as a promoter of this project. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much. Please give a warm round of applause to
네. 발표 잘 들었습니다.
to
대덕구에서
Secretary General Park
실제로
Eun-young, who
진행하신
talked
여러
about the governance
프로젝트들에
mechanism
대해서
for Daedeok local
제주도에서
energy
에너지
transition.
전환
And in the process of the
작년
energy
다양하게
transition, how local
행사를
residents
개최하는
take part in
성공적인 사례
and how the other
여기 스테이나
stakeholders
지역도
engaged.
어떤
So
부분들이
we heard the
보완되어야
case of
되는지,
Daedeok
어떤 구조들이
District, what
만들어져야
needs to be
되는지, 어떤
improved, what
부분들을 우리가 조금 더
can be a
염두에 둬야
great
되는지에 대해서
proposal, what needs to be
자세하게
kept in
말씀해 주신
mind.
것
So thank you
같습니다.
once again
우선은
for your
코디네이팅 행보가
presentation.
필요하다 이런 이제
The
말씀에 많이
fact
동의를
that
했는데요.
Secretary General
지역
Park
에너지
mentioned
정책에 대해서도
coordinator
말씀해
is
주셨는데
essential,
꼭
I
그
totally
부분들을
agree.
조금 더
Maybe we can
구체화해서
dive deeper
말씀을
into the
좋을 것 같습니다.
need of having
이제 국내
coordinator during
발전의
our panel
마지막 순으로
discussion.
넘어가게
The last
되면
presentation
사실
from
이제
Korea.
지금까지 에너지 전환, 그다음에 이제 그린 뉴딜
So thus far,
이런
we
것들을 가능하게 하는
talked
하나의
about
핵심이
the energy
있었습니다만
transition and the Green
아직까지는
New Deal, and one of the key
과학적인
success
결정이 안 되고
factors
있습니다. 그래서 이런
is
부분이 발전이
the
없었으면
development
사실
of science
저희가
and
재생에너지
technology, because
확장이나
if it wasn't for
리뉴얼 에너지
technological
사업을
advancement,
실현할 수
we
없을
were
수도 있을 것
we
같은데요.
would not have been
그래서
able
마지막
to
국내 발전이
pursue
지역 에너지
various
전환과 과학기술의
projects related
결합이라는
to
주제로
resource
말씀을
circulation. So the
드렸습니다.
title of the final
발전하는 현재
presentation is
대전 과학
Science and
산업
Technology
총회
for Local Energy
원장님
Transition. The
고용재
presenter
박사님께서
is the
말씀을 진행해
president of
주시겠습니다.
the
큰
Daejeon
박수로
Institute of
맞이해
Science and
주시기
Technology
바라겠습니다.
for Enterprise and People. Please invite him with a big round of applause. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very honored. In 2015, when the Paris Agreement was signed, I took part as an advisor. And did you see? If you take a look at the full literature, you can see, if you see the pictures from that event, the representatives from 195 countries reviewed the entire literature from start to the end. And one of the key ideas was technology. And the idea was that the existing technologies and methods are not enough to limit the average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We needed more advanced technologies because and we needed collaboration because advanced economies had those advanced technologies, but the underdeveloped countries did not have that technology. So the advanced economies were like, you should buy the technology from us. And the underdeveloped companies were asking the other economies to share the technologies free of charge. And Korea was kind of stuck in the middle as an arbitrator. And I remember being very confused about the future of technology. And the other thing is, because of this issue about technology, it took a while to reach an agreement. And the United States and China reached an agreement behind the curtains. So the Paris Agreement was signed one day behind schedule. And I remember the current President Biden was Secretary of State at that point. And the first thing that he did after taking office as president was to rejoin the Paris Agreement because he understands the importance of the agreement. And I remember that clean energy transition was considered the most important out of various technologies back then. Korea pledged to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and advanced economies pledged to reduce the absolute amount, and underdeveloped countries pledged to reduce the percentage compared to the BAU level. And Korea pledged to reduce 37% or 310 million tons. And we also pledged to increase the portion of renewable energy to 20%. And we had to submit the specific plans until the past year, and we have to revise up the objectives going forward. But the objectives, the NDC goals that Korea submitted is very low compared to other countries. But still, if we have to reduce 310 million tons of emissions, we need more advanced technologies. So we have to make more investments into the technical space. Because as of currently, this is considered as a very impossible task because we're lacking the effort. That is the conclusion that we have reached at this point. In order to resolve this issue, we have to change our perspective toward technology, because most people think of industries when they think about technologies, and they think better technologies will bring about a better society. But what's more important is which technologies the citizens or the society chooses. In the past, when we did not have another option, we stuck to the technologies that we had, but from now on, the citizens have to call for alternative technologies, and they have to opt for new technologies, or otherwise the industries will try to keep going, will stick to their existing plans, and it will be very, very difficult for us to achieve a more ambitious target. So I think we have to focus on this area, and since this seminar is funded by the EU, and we're also discussing cases about the European cases, I believe it's very meaningful that local communities in European countries are making their voluntary effort to achieve energy transition. This is a very important contribution to going net zero. So if we are to focus on energy, we have the energy technology development policy, and there are energy transition technologies, and there's the question of how we're going to converge technology and society. The Energy Basic Plan covers 2019 to 2040, and Korea tends to be obsessive with short-term outcomes. But from now on, we have to look further into the future. We have to imagine the 30 or 40 years to come. So that's why the Energy Basic Plan has such a long horizon. And we also have to innovate the energy consuming structure and the paradigm. And the goal is to adopt a cleaner and safer energy mix, and to expand the distribution-based distributive energy system. And we have to improve the efficiency of energy consumption and also reduce demand. The citizens have to be aware of these goals. And another thing is we have to gradually phase out nuclear power and reduce coal power. And we have to increase the proportion of renewable energy to 30 to 35%, because currently it's less than 5%. So in order to bump this up to 30 to 35%, we have to make a lot more effort. And we have to have distributive and participatory energy systems. And we also have to sharpen the global competitiveness of energy industry, because that's going to be the key of future industries. And we have to have technologies in order to realize these visions. So that's why we're crafting the energy basic plan every 10 years. We include goals about the future energy market and so forth. We have selected 4 main strategies with 15 agendas. These are the core agendas. For one, we're trying to focus 90% of the total energy R&D investment to 16 core technologies. The 16 core technologies are as follows. There are energy, new industry nurturing technologies, and there are also clean and safe energy supply related technologies. There's technologies related to higher efficiency and lower consumption structure and distributive energy systems. So we have to adopt these technologies over the long term and connect this to a transition for us to truly shift to a different energy paradigm. The 4 pillars are PV, wind power, hydrogen, and new energy materials such as fuel cells, gas turbines, lithium, batteries, and so forth. And the 5 technologies for clean and safe technology is nuclear power, clean power, resource development, circular resources, and energy safety related technologies. And the 4 technologies related to higher efficiency and lower consumption is building efficiency, energy efficiency. And one thing that I was very impressed after visiting Germany was that there were many buildings without heating and air conditioning facilities, because the building itself was ecologically crafted. So it's very cool, even if you don't turn on the air conditioner. And I saw many glass buildings, but they were blinded on the exterior, so in order to save energy consumption. So I saw that the buildings generate energy, which is better than saving energy. I think that we have to apply this to different sectors such as transportation and leverage big data along the way. And there are also intellectual power grid related technologies, energy storage, and cyber safety related technologies. Renewable energy can be very unstable and intermittent, but it's very important for us to therefore increase the stability of renewable energy. Last but not least, when we think about technologies, it's very important how the technologies are leveraged at the society and how the citizens view these new technologies, like I explained earlier. So we have to integrate this with science and technology, and this has to be a joint project or a social venture across different stakeholders. And at the end of the day, it has to be linked with the social projects as well. So that's to highlight the importance of persistent energy transition efforts. And from the perspective of welfare, there's energy welfare, society, and economy. And if we include technology in the picture, it not only contributes to society, but it creates a new market opportunity. So a new market is going to be created, and we will be able to achieve social transition and environmental transition with innovative methods. So we need a change of thought here. And at the city level or the regional level, you have to make sure that the citizens and the young generation are at the forefront of the effort. And as you communicate with different experts, you have to completely change the existing method of industrialization and urbanization. So you have to encourage the young generation to adopt a new perspective, to create a new paradigm for job creation and so forth. And I believe that will facilitate our journey into energy transition. I know that Daedeok District is making diverse effort, and I understand that you require a lot of international cooperation and technical development. Along the way, you will have to receive much support to receive resources that you do not have. And I believe that the Daejeon Institute of Science and Technology will be able to provide the support that you require. So we will try to do our best to join you along the way. Thank you. Let's give the presenter a big hand. That marks the end of the Korean presentations. And we will now move on to the Q&A session. I would like to invite the moderator and all of the speakers who will take part in the Q&A session onto the stage. Just to briefly explain, the co-president Choi Jeong-woo of the Daejeon Energy Transition Network will moderate the Q&A session. And the panels would be the presenters, District Mayor Park Jeong-hyun, Professor Ban Young-un, Secretary General Park Eun-young, and President Ko Young-ju. And we also have our speakers from Europe who are still connected online. We have Mr. Vanhanen, the program director of Kalasatama, and we also have the head of the Center for Nature, Environment, and Leisure, Louise Lyng Bojesen. And I would like to give the floor to the moderator. And just before I leave, we're currently streaming live into English and into Korean, and I understand that because of some technical issues, the Korean interpretation was not unavailable for a short period in the beginning. After the event, we will edit a new version and share it with you for those of you who require interpretations. So I would like to hand over the floor to the moderator and
Thank you very much. Today, I will be working as the moderator for panel discussion. My name is Choi Jeong-woo. I work at the Daejeon Energy Transition Network. I'm very pleased to meet you all. Today, we'll be having discussion, not restricting our boundary within Daejeon or Daedeok District, but throughout Korea, what should be our future direction. And we'd like to discuss about our future. And I believe that various energy policies implemented by Daedeok District and also the plans and policies, the concerns, and also various things promoted by Korea can also be discussed. And also we have two speakers from Europe, so the examples of the European cases can also be discussed. And it was a great opportunity that we learned a lot from the Finland and Denmark. Once again, today's conference is very meaningful, and we are not trying to find a solution, but through the EU-Korea Local Energy Transition Conference, we'd like to gather our wisdoms, and then we can probably identify our concerns and probably come up with the future plans that might work in both areas. Since this is a virtual meeting, please make sure to express your views freely, and this is a free discussion, but unfortunately there are some limitations. So I, as a moderator, will intervene and I'll give you the floor, and then when your name is designated, you can ask a question or you can answer. And when I say please start your discussion, you can give your comment, or if you have any question, also please make sure to whom you're asking the question. And then the next discussant can also answer that or pose a question, and also make sure you identify to whom you are asking the question. And first of all, we've been talking about energy policy and representing the ecosystem in Korea. What should be our future? And many ways we were able to save energy consumption. And Professor Pan Young-woon from Chungbuk National University would like to invite him. So would you like to start your discussion first? So within 5 minutes, please make sure to complete 3 to 5 minutes. Please restrict your comment.
So I'd like to give the floor to Professor Pan. At the end of the day, in order to become a sustainable society, energy transition is a must. Our existing energy structure or power generation is based on coal, and we have to transition to renewable energy. And we have to reduce energy consumption as much as we can. I understand that the Daedeok District is doing their best in this area, and I was very surprised listening to the district mayor's presentation. So out of the 5 districts in Daejeon, and also out of the local governments in Korea, I'm not sure if there is another local government putting in more effort compared to Daedeok. And I was very interested in the various projects that Daedeok District is rolling out. So if you require my support anytime, I would like to gladly offer a hand and also learn from your experience. And it's a very a big honor to be able to listen to that presentation. In the energy resources that are available to us, I think biomass is the one with the greatest potential for Daedeok, starting from food waste and the organic waste from discharged from industrial complexes. If you could integrate that to bioenergy or biogas, it would be great. And if you could utilize fuel cells or establish fuel cell related facilities on land in your vicinity, and if you connect that with biomass facilities, you could utilize LNG to facilitate that energy transition or fuel transition. And if that is made possible, I think that Daedeok will pretty much be able to support most of its energy consumption through renewable energy. So I'd like to talk to the relevant representatives. I have a question for Kalasatama and Bornholm. Do you have any successful cases of energy sufficiency? That's my question. Thank you. Oh, so we will listen to the cases of Kalasatama and Bornholm in a moment, and we will first like to collect questions from the floor, and that question is to you, actually, Professor Pan. This person would like to know about the economic, social, and environmental impact of the EIP project, and the effect, was it gauged from which phase of the EIP project that you introduced? The effect was very low or minimal in stage 1 because the system evolves as we go. So in the initial phase, the effects are very minimal, but as the events accumulate, the biggest effect was witnessed in phase 2, stage 2 to stage 3. So the effects, escalated. I hope that answered your question. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the comment box.
Second, representing civic organization, we have Daejeon Chungnam Green Korea United. And also you heard a presentation by Secretary General Park. And from the perspective of the civic organization who is taking action, said that no more declarations, but now is the time to act. So what kind of example can you identify? So Secretary General Park Eun-young, can you elaborate? Well, I feel on site that sometimes I feel like I am faced with a wall. I mean, there were a lot of declarations. We talk about carbon neutrality, eco-friendly, etc. But of course, we have a sort of expectation that everything will go smoothly. However, even though there were a lot of declarations of going into carbon neutrality, we are using more energy than saving it. We use coal power plant, we also use fossil fuels, etc. And in order to become a true sense of the carbon neutral society, there are things that we shouldn't do. So do's and don'ts must be clarified, and also development projects done by the local area some of them must be halted, some of them needs to be replaced, and we need to come up with more concrete plans. Of course, as an organizations of the eco-friendly civic organization, we'll take more actions, but also there are resources that belong to local area, and the civic organizations needs to work as a promoter, linking the local resources to other environmental friendly actions. So every time we talk about the need and importance of engaging the citizens as well as the people working in certain area, and there's no easy solution. Somebody mentioned that, and there's no easy solution. That really is deeply grave in my heart. Nothing can be resolved by making declarations or announcing plans for campaign. And we need determinations. We need to have a strong willingness to implement these plans. In that sense, local residents and local autonomy, local stakeholders need to be conversed. We need to build a platform where everyone gather together, exchange our views. I have a question. Please allow me to ask a question. I'd like to ask a question to Program Director Kerkko Vanhanen about the Forum Virium. Can you elaborate what kind of role the Forum Virium Helsinki does? I would appreciate if you can give more information. And second, Head Bojesen, in order to realize sustainability, you mentioned that you have a chance to talk with the local residents about the sustainability, because in Korea, when we talk about sustainability goal, it's very abstract concept and people don't easily understand what we really mean by sustainability goals. So how do you communicate with the residents in terms of implementing sustainability goal? And if the residents don't understand, how do you tell them? How do you persuade them? So if you have special skills, can you tell us? So my first question goes to Program Director Vanhanen. In the second page, he talked about Forum Virium Helsinki. So I hope Mr. Vanhanen can talk more about, introduce more about Forum Virium Helsinki. Well, he's nodding, so I think he understood the question. And I believe the 14 speakers, now it's your turn. So first of all, Program Director Kerkko Vanhanen, would you like to answer the questions that were raised?
Yes.
And many people would like to know more about the actual cases, the work activities done by the Forum Virium Helsinki, and also Head Bojesen, you can talk about sustainability goals, how you communicate with the residents if you have actual cases, how you persuade them, how you tell them what to do. So now we'd like to hear the views from first Program Director Vanhanen and then second Head Bojesen. So first, Mr. Vanhanen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, let's take first the role of Forum Virium. As I described, it is an LTD, an independent company, but it is fully owned by the city of Helsinki. And our role is we normally work through projects, and we apply for funding from different funding instruments, such as different European Union funding instruments, Horizon 2020 and so on. And in all those projects, you need to have different partners from different cities. So it's always working together with other cities as well and sharing knowledge. Our role in the city of Helsinki is to engage the different departments of the city, such as city planning or healthcare department or whatever. We have plenty of different departments, and our role to be in between is to know what are the challenges, what different public sectors departments are facing. And let's take this energy efficiency as an example. So in Smart Kalasatama, we have applied for funding for projects that handle that theme. And one of those has been, for example, the energy efficiency in new homes, but also in something that could be scaled to older buildings, such as having artificial intelligence in thermostats of radiators, so that you heat different apartments only when necessary, and you use also AI to understand how different rooms are used in an apartment. So with the support of digitalization and new technology, you try to increase the efficiency in older buildings. And this what Forum Virium as a company does. We kind of look into the future all the time. We try to find out the latest technologies that could be used in, for example, in construction. And sometimes it's just to give examples or feedback to the authorities what they should require from the building companies, or it's closer cooperation with the building companies themselves, so that we give guidance to them. So we are kind of catalyst in between of the public sector's requirements and public sector's longer term targets, and on the other hand with the kind of free market companies and their interests in building projects and building economies. That was my other part of my answer, and let me just give one example of energy efficiency in Smart Kalasatama district in general. There is a big power plant that uses coal at the moment. That coal plant has produced electricity, but at the same time, when you produce electricity and burn coal, there you also create a lot of heat, and that heat has been used for the district heating system. So one power plant heats hundreds of buildings. So actually the energy efficiency of that power plant, even though it has used coal, has been quite high. The political decision has been made that it will be closed anyway. It will not burn coal after 2024. So 4 years only until it will be closed. So how to replace that energy? I gave the example of the heat pump, take extra energy from wastewater. Another is that there is a huge cave, a rock cave that is full of water. Water that is cooler than outside air in summer times. So we have not only district heating, but district cooling system. Same pipes that normally heat, they cool the apartments in the summertime. And such investments that are behind the scenes are long-term investments and big ones. But then it's calculated that such investments serve a district such as Kalasatama. And that is a mixture of individual lives, energy efficiency, and then public big-scale investments.
Thank you so much for that great answer to the question. Did you have any questions for the Korean presenters? Or if you have any comments that you would like to make, we would be glad to listen to your opinions. Mr. Vanhanen?
One kind of a general comment is about urban architecture. We heard in one presentation how class buildings it has been one trend what cities and modern cities look like. And now when we think about passive energy buildings and buildings that actually produce energy more than what they consume, it's also it does have an effect also how the buildings will look like. And I just want to encourage everyone, not only in Korea, but especially also in my home city in Helsinki and everywhere, to have an open mind to what the modern buildings should look like, how we could use solar energy also from the walls of the buildings nowadays when it is possible. So buildings facades will differ from the older times, I suppose, but give an opportunity for the architects to work close with the energy engineers and support them to find solutions that not only are aesthetic, good looking, but at the same time energy productive.
Thank you. So we were able to understand your answers very well through the interpretation, so I will not summarize again. And I believe that many Northern European countries are going through the same challenges that we are experiencing, and they were very swift in adopting many energy transitions. So we have a question for Denmark. Denmark is known as a country with a very high proportion of renewable energy. What were the energy policies in the transition to that success in the midway? That would be the question for Ms. Louise Lyng Bojesen regarding those transitory policies. And if you also have any general comments that you would like to make about today's presentations, we'll be happy to hear them. And the questions are to repeat your goals towards sustainable energy. And if you have anything that you would like to say regarding our presentations today, that would be great. And the question, just to repeat, is those policies that led you to that high proportion of new renewable energy. So that was a lot of questions. So you don't necessarily have to answer each and every one of them. You can just give a general comment. We ask for your wise advice.
Thank you. And yes, there was a lot of questions. I'll try my best to answer. If I should start up with the question about the policies and the energy planning and all how we work with our energy efficiency, I would say that in one of the first projects where we made this energy plan was in the Transplant project in 2007, and it had all our energy resources were described, and we made a goal for each of them. And as you heard from Finland, we also have district heating in Bornholm. And at that time, it was also fired with coal and oil, of course. And so we made a plan to say this was going to be replaced. And at that time, biomass was a good example of a renewables resource. And of course, also we were discussing heat pumps, but they were not so developed at that moment. But in 2012, our biggest district heating plant were converted to biomass. And this is also producing electricity, as you heard from the example in Finland. So this is one example. And then I would also say we have been working very much with connecting our district heating nets. So there's cables between the cities. So the different plants are placed all over the island, they can support each other in different situations. Since we have also been working very much to control the use of the electricity to make a better energy efficiency, and control has been, they have made a lot of projects, our supply company, concerning how to use electrical vehicles, and can you use the batteries to store energy, and with the citizens, can you they have examined how to play, if we can use batteries in the big net, or can we control and use or make our local citizens use the electricity when it's produced, in, so we can make, we have made big projects where they controlled the heat pumps and the washing machines and the dishwashers and so on at people's homes. So they were being more aware of how they can control this big system. I would say we have a long history of this conversion of our energy system. And today we have, only in situations where everything is going wrong, we are using oil in our district heating. But now it's only biomass and heat pumps, which heats up the system. And most of our electricity is produced on solar panels and wind energy, but also, of course, we import from some Sweden and the rest of the Nordic countries in situations. So I think we have, this is a very long story, but we have a lot of experience we could also share. I will also ask how we communicated all these sustainable goals to our local citizens. And I would say, be patient and make it, keep it simple. And this is also why I spoke about what is motivating people, because some people are motivated very much by all the new different gadgets or nice cars, or oh, this is very interesting with the solar power. And other people, well, they are maybe more concerned about their health and would like to eat more friendly, or some people find it interesting with the waste or the garbage. So we have tried to make it very simple. And this is also why I had the pictures where people they were telling that it was very, simple actions, picking up garbage in nature is a very simple action. And this is a way of translating the sustainable development goals to the public. So we have been very aware of this project or of this way to do it when we are speaking with the public. And when, of course, we also sometimes have used local known actors or players, or different persons who can make it more well, I would say funny. Humor is a very good way of reaching people. And as I also told you about, well, our children in the schools and in the kindergartens, if we can make them understand, well, our local teachers, they have been, instructing them, and then the children can come home to tell their parents about it. So it's been a very, we tried to keep it very simple, and I would say this is the only way, because otherwise the big issues will be too far complicated for the people to understand, and to well, understand what can I do in my daily life, what is necessary for me to change. So of course, also maybe riding the bike instead of taking the car is a big issue. I hope this answered some of your questions. Otherwise you have to, I think, repeat them again. And a comment I would just say, I've been listening to all your presentations, and I think you're very well along the way. And of course, we have been doing this for years, but I think you should just still continue. I think it was very interesting to listen to where all your how can I say, all the things that you're the process that you're in now. So I just say wish you good luck further, and you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. The cases of different regions and also the cases of the projects that you have actually carried out, we were able to learn and also know more about the implication. Thank you. Once again, Program Director Vanhanen and Head Bojesen, thank you very much for your presentation and discussion. Now, the microphone is to you, President Go Young-joo.
You said that you took part in the Paris Agreement negotiations as a representative from Korea. I was very impressed. It's been quite a while. And I think there are some things that we have been overlooking, and we have wasted time in some areas, but still, we reiterated the task of limiting the average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius yet again yesterday. And this is a very important task that Korea and Daedeok District has to tackle. So I'd like to ask President Ko Young-joo your opinions on how exactly, which effort we have to put in to address this challenge. Yes, the Daejeon Institute of Science and Technology is an institution funded by the Daejeon government, and we we were crafted as an institution to share ideas on strategies to develop innovative industrial and urban policies. And the 16 major technologies that I just outlined actually exist in Daedeok District. And I put a lot of thought to which technologies are especially necessary for a special district aiming for energy transition should have. I'm participating in those discussions as an expert to find out which technologies are necessary for carbon neutrality, to achieve carbon neutrality. And we're also trying to connect energy transition to carbon neutrality. And we're looking into actual case examples. One of them are senior citizens living in aged buildings, and they suffer from these energy-related issues, so we provide them with welfare expenses for heating and cooling. And our task is how to increase energy efficiency with the same amount of money. But not many ideas have been developed in that area, so we're trying to analyze households to find out the best option for their energy consumption. So for this household, maybe we should tackle this area to help them use energy as efficiently as possible. And also for PV, we're trying to expand the PV facilities in Gyeonggi-do and so forth. Most of you will think of silicon or like solid ingredients when you think about solar panels, those that you attach at the outside of the building and your car. But there would be more options, flexible options that are available that will help you save energy. And there's a lot of technologies out there. So I think we have to try to more aggressively tap into those technologies. With the outbreak of COVID-19, people started using more disposables and more plastics started to be generated. And we have to think about how we can control the waste, plastic waste in urban areas. So our institution and experts, Mr. Yang here is also taking part in those discussions to address the plastic waste issue. We're trying to develop the necessary regulations and technologies for that also. So what I would like to say is, I would like to say two things. The first thing is that I mentioned the Paris Agreement. 5 years has passed since, maybe more years, 6 or 7 years since the Paris Agreement. And time has flied, and what have we actually done? We have to reflect on ourselves. The government has invested around 27.4 trillion won in R&D, and I'm not sure how much of that went into developing technologies for climate neutrality. It's a very, very small portion. So I think the citizens and the general public have to ramp up their voices to call on the government to make more investments into innovative technologies. And the second thing that I would like to say is technical development from a technology perspective is, well, most technologies just end with an idea on paper. What is important is to translate that idea to a reality, and we need your participation, the participation of the general public in that process. And we also need support from the industry and the civil society because we lack experience in that area. The citizens, the companies, and the technology experts have to all join hands to envision a new future for the city, and they have to work together to achieve that vision through a new and innovative system. So our efforts have to continue. I was very impressed by the phrase that there are no quick fixes. Nothing can be solved overnight. It will take time for the stakeholders to gather and engage in discussions. So I would just like to ask our citizens to bear an interest in this area and keep voicing your opinions to the government. So yeah, we have to call for new technologies, call for more aggressive investments in this area. That's what I would like to say. Thank you. I think our environment and energy policies they require technologies to be regarding the details of the policies. So, and I think Daedeok District has a very good advantage because it is very close to the Daedeok R&D Center. That's an old name, but it's very close by a R&D facility. So I hope that the district will play a part in translating these hopes to a reality. So today we talked mostly about policies, but we have to ask ourselves whether if we really have the technologies to turn that vision into a reality. But we actually have most of the technologies. And Mr. Cole just pointed out that the public has to raise their voices to call on the government to act out. And I would like to thank Mr. Cole for taking time out of his busy schedule to be here. And he highlighted the importance of us garnering our collective wisdom. And the policymakers should play a role here, and the district authorities also have to play a role. So last but not least, I would like to ask District Mayor Park Jeong-hyeon to make her comment.
And if there are any other comments from the floor, also please submit, and I will make sure that I will ask a question. We are a little bit behind the schedule, but if there are any questions, please make sure to be very brief. So once again, District Mayor Park Jeong-hyeon, please start. Well, it's not a discussion, nor it's not raising any issues, but the EU-Korea Local Energy Transition Conference that we are having today actually instigate imagination in my head. When I say that, I can see the government officials sitting here today, their faces are suddenly changed. Well, I hope that you are not at a loss what to do in the future, but President Go Young-ju, together with the Daejeon Institute of Science and Technology for Enterprise and People, I was able to learn a lot from him, because energy must be based on new technology, and fourth industrial revolution must start from a state-of-art technology. So maybe shall we host a special high technology exhibition together with Daejeon Institute of Science and Technology for Enterprise and People? I mean, technology is not something like grandiose things. We can start from anything, from a very minor or trivial things. We can do something. So exhibition, what is it? The real purpose of exhibition is showing something to the viewer. And what about you? Do you have the budget to do that? President Go Young-ju, would you like to do that together with the Daedeok District government? In the later part of this year, maybe we can do it together. If you don't have a budget right now, maybe you can do it next year. And various technology from different cities or different districts in Korea can come and display their technology. And the citizens can view that. And then if they look at it, they like it, then they can adopt it. So I think that's a great idea. So I just came up with a new business plan, and I hope the President Go can deeply think about it. Anyway, I loved the presentation from Program Directors Kerkko Vanhanen, the case of the Kala Satama Smart City case. I was able to learn a lot. It's very impressive. We aspire to build smart city, and definitely Kala Satama City's case is something that we need to learn and apply in our case. And also, head Louise Bojesen. Well, sorry, Kerkko Vanhanen, you said that you have your own system, and please send us, and then we can also come up with a plan. We can learn from you, and then we can use it as a guidance. Now, to head Louise Lyng Bojesen, Bornholm, you said it's an island. I visited Denmark. At the time, it was a self-sufficiency 100%, and they were engaged in various activity. And I really would like to visit Bornholm, your area. And also, you mentioned that there's no easy solution. We need to equip ourselves with the long-term visions, and together with the citizens, we need to build our action plan and then implement that. That really touched my heart, and I would like to also apply that. And thank you so much for your way of delivering the message, because I need to learn from you. You gave me a tip, an advice. I need to be straightforward and also make sure to deliver the message to my district citizens. If you invite me, that'll be great. I'd like to visit your place. And also Professor Pan Young-un from Chungbuk National University. I really would like to do what you are doing, the EIP project. there are like 500 to 600 companies in Daejeon city, and maybe we need to connect each other, and we can save energy, and also we can build a circular economy. We can ponder upon what would be the best way, and I would love to work with you, Professor Pan Yong-woo. And you are in charge of Daejeon and Chungnam. Why aren't you paying attention to this area, Daejeon City? I'll be visiting you soon. And also Secretary General Park Eun-young, you are in charge of various eco-friendly environmental activity, and you talk about importance of enhancing synergy effect by connecting different stakeholders interest, and I will keep your message in mind. And whenever I do my work within the Daedeok District, I will make sure that I will connect all the stakeholders. There's one last message that I'd like to deliver to everyone. The case of Kala Satama and the case of Bornholm, what I would like to emphasize that we are not that different. I mean, our concerns and their concerns are same, and definitely we are on the same platform. But why are we behind them? Why is Helsinki, why is Bornholm much ahead of us? Probably it's because we don't feel the sense of urgency or sense of understanding. The issues lying ahead of us must be tackled right away. We don't have that kind of feeling. So once again, now's the time not to make declarations, but to take action. So Daedeok District, I promise you that we will actively respond to the climate crisis, not only within only Daedeok District, but with Daejeon City, we will actively work hard so that we can comply with 1.5 degree the cap. Thank you.
Thank you. So we discussed the Green New Deal policies at the national level and the energy policies at the local government level, and it was a very meaningful international conference. I hope that this conference provided you with insights on Korea's policies and EU's policies, which will lead us into a bit crafting actual policies. And I myself had a very insightful discussion. And I still believe that many of you would have liked to meet in person with a larger group of people, because we have to have a more in-depth discussion with a larger group. And I sincerely hope that COVID-19 will be contained soon. And so I would like to thank our guests from the EU for their presentations. And I would also like to thank our Korean presenters who made their proposals regarding energy transition and the Green New Deal, eco-industrial parks, the governance mechanism, and the technologies necessary for transition. So after the Rio statement and the Paris Agreement, we have had many discussions, but ever since the Fukushima nuclear incident 10 years ago, we have understood that with the existing energy mix, the Earth is no longer sustainable. So that was the starting point for our discussions, and the local governments have started their own campaigns, and they're preparing for the energy transition for quite a while now, and the central government has finally started to make efforts, and this is bringing a very bright future closer to us. And I believe Daedeok District is one of the players that are at the forefront of this effort. I hope that you will be able to see very encouraging results soon. And I hope that you will collaborate with the Daedeok R&D complex and also the citizens in the local community. Please know that will be providing our utmost support. I do understand that the seminar was very short and we're behind schedule, but I hope that you had a very good time today. Once again, I would like to thank our experts from Finland and Denmark for your time. Let's give them a big hand again. And with that, I would like to close today's conference. Thank you everyone for joining us today. So that was I would like to announce the official closing of today's event because the district mayor has already made her comments earlier. So let's just give a big round of applause.